Hello, my name is Tony Paget. I'm the president of the NLP study group of Tokyo, and I'm joined today by Charlie Badenhop, who is a frequent guest speaker for our group. And I would like just to talk with Charlie a bit about some of the basic concepts and the basic ideas about his work. So Charlie, thanks for volunteering to do this tape for us.
Sure thing.
From my understanding in watching you speak to our group several different times, your work seems to be based upon, and correct me if I'm wrong, NLP, Aikido,
Yep.
and Seitai.
Yes.
Could you expand a little bit more about those three art forms and how are they related and how they relate to your work?
Okay. Maybe I'll start with the one that most likely most Western people know very little about, which is Seitai.
Mm-hmm.
And just for the audience in this tape, just to let them know that I've been in Japan for about 18 years, and I'm a certified instructor of Aikido, and also I've studied Aikido for about, I think, 21 years or so.
Right.
And I've studied Seitai for about the same amount of time. Seitai means, basically in English, would mean properly ordered or organized or constructed body.
Right.
Properly constructed body.
Yes.
And the kind of Seitai that I study was created by a man called Noguchi Sensei. And one of the very main premises that Noguchi Sensei had was that we wind up during the course of our life holding on to excess energy, and we store that excess energy in our body.
Right.
That could be fat, right? If we eat too much and we're storing too much fat in our body, which is helpful maybe in the wintertime if we get stuck up in the Arctic. We hold on to energy via tensing our shoulders. People have tight shoulders, or often people have lower back problems or tensing their backs. So many different ways that we hold on to excess energy. And Noguchi Sensei used to say that if we can release that energy, we will be healthy. So that disease is a matter of holding on to excess energy.
Okay.
And you'll see the same thing happen in corporations, where when I work with corporate people, I say that if you could release the energy, the desire, the creativity of the people working within your corporation, your company would be successful.
How do you help one release excess energy in the form of just strictly Seitai?
With Seitai, we have a bunch of several simple exercises that are meant to kind of mildly overwork the system so the system reorganizes.
Physical exercises.
Physical exercises. You've seen me work when I come to your study group, and one of the things I do is I often have people sit on large rubber physiotherapy balls.
Right. Yes.
So, for instance, if we get people bouncing on those balls and making some sounds of just releasing caught up energy, those kind of things,
right,
and get them moving.
Right.
If they do that for 5 or 10 minutes, the average person feels more relaxed.
Right.
Okay. They've let go of some of the excess energy that they were carrying with them when they entered the room.
Right.
And then there are other simple exercises where you, for instance, consciously tense the parts of your body that you normally tense without knowing it. So, for instance, if a client says, I have sore shoulders all the time, we have the client tense their shoulder muscles until such time the muscles can't tense any longer, and they just really release. And often the shoulder pain goes along with that.
Right. So Seitai seems like a very physical, I don't want to say physical therapy, but it is very physical in itself.
Physical, it's a physical process, it's a physical way, it's a way of managing your emotional state through your physical body.
Right. Now, I've practiced Aikido with you some over about 3 years, and taking Aikido, which is another principle that you seem to base your work on, that is a physical art form, but at another level, it seems to be more of a, an intuition art form. It seems to be a nice balance with Aikido as well. Would that be a true statement?
Yeah. In Aikido, one of the things we do in our warm-up exercises is we do some spinning exercises, we do some rolling exercises, again to take the person out of their normal everyday way of thinking and being, and kind of like, you can say, putting them in the washing machine or in the tumble dryer a little bit, but they come out feeling fresh and clean because they've done some activities that give them that kind of feeling.
Right.
And also, one of the things that helps people in Aikido to have a kind of fresh, invigorated feeling is we have many, many exercises that teach the student how to actually think from their lower abdomen area.
Right.
As unusual as that would sound, and I know that you know, and we won't go into a long discussion now, that there's actually been some very high quality scientific research in the Western world stating that there is literally a second brain in the gut.
Yes.
You know, well, Oriental culture has been understanding something about that for thousands of years.
Right.
So one of the great things about Aikido, and Seitai helps a little bit with this also, it moves the thinking, the thought processes down into the body.
Mm-hmm.
And when you give greater voice to your body,
Yes.
greater, if you pay more attention to your body and listen to your wisdom, your intuition, it gives the brain in your skull a bit of a chance to rest.
Mm. That seems a very interesting, well-rounded approach with Seitai and Aikido. Now, NLP, how does this... I'm quite a little confused at how that fits in with Aikido and Seitai.
Okay, good. NLP, of course, neuro-linguistic programming. I'm guessing most of the people that will listen to this tape will know a little bit about NLP. Perhaps they all will. I had the opportunity to work with John Grinder on a number of occasions, and he often used to say that Aikido was the physical manifestation of NLP.
Mm-hmm.
And that used to really surprise people when they first heard it. Because John would say, and this is very much my belief, is that we generate the language that we speak, we generate it first in our body.
Right.
Okay. For instance, what I mean by that, if I was to ask you, for instance, when we started this interview, I know for me, I usually have a little nervousness in the beginning.
Right.
Chances are you did too.
Sure.
Okay. How did you know that you were nervous instead of, say, depressed or angry?
A little bit of shaking, a little bit of tension in the muscles.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Right. A little bit of shaking, a little bit of tension in the muscles. And out of that little bit of shaking and tensing,
mm-hmm.
and we all do this, you pulled a label out of your repertoire of language, and you called it, or are calling it now, nervousness or anxiety.
Right.
So something goes on, you hear perhaps the quality of your voice seems a little tight.
Right.
You actually might feel your heart beating a little bit when you normally don't.
Yes.
You might notice a little sweating and such, and you go, this is nervousness.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So if your voice didn't change, if your pulse didn't increase, and if you didn't start sweating a little bit, chances are you wouldn't actually be able to, you could utter the words, but it wouldn't make sense for you to say that you're nervous.
Okay. But that makes sense. And now, taking all of Seitai and Aikido and NLP together, could you explain maybe how a typical session with you would work? Or a workshop or whatever?
Well, I guess, maybe the one further thing I'd like to say in regard to NLP and how it fits into the other two pieces of Seitai and Aikido is we're looking to balance our intellect and our intuition. One of the things I'm looking to do in the work that I do with people.
Yes.
We're looking to balance our ability to be spontaneous
mm-hmm.
while at the same time being structured.
Yes.
Right? We're looking to balance many different parts of our personalities.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't want to become Mr. Time Management
mm-hmm.
and meanwhile make terrible relationships with everybody that we work with. I don't think the average person would want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
We also perhaps don't want to become Mr. Creativity and we're so creative, but we wind up not showing up for the meetings on time, and we had a great idea, but we didn't get it done until 3 days past the deadline. And so we're looking to balance what I call the cognitive and the somatic.
Okay, yes.
And so the Aikido and the Seitai very much give you a different somatic experience, how to tune into your body better, how to listen to your body, how to respond with your body as the primary source of inspiration rather than the brain in your skull.
Okay.
And then NLP, again, which I believe is the cognitive manifestation of Aikido,
right.
We're looking to add cognitive aspects to that, so that cognitively you also need to have some understanding of what took place. Mm-hmm. That's what helps it stick with you in the future.
Right.
Okay, that you'll come to a session, for instance, or even an Aikido class, you have a big experience, and usually it really serves us to have a way to, after the experience is over, to sort of slice it and dice it and be able to put it in different little cubicles, whatever, so that we can understand it better cognitively, and then perhaps reproduce it in the future.
Maybe, as you would call, unpacking it?
What I often call unpacking, exactly.
Yes. Okay, great. Now taking those three concepts, and again, let's say somebody comes into you with some kind of issue, maybe overeating, let's say, or what compulsive eater or something like this, and they want to come in to you to diet or to lose weight. How would your session be structured, and how would you help this person, or how would you use those concepts? What would it feel like? What would it be like to work with you?
Okay. Good question. And the first thing I do, which I'm kind of doing now, is that I slow the pace down of the interaction.
Slow the pace down of the interaction. Now, why is that?
Because, particularly in the Western world, in the industrialized world, there's literally a kind of pace that we're working with or working under sometimes.
Yes.
So, for instance, even the fluorescent lights flicker a little bit on and off. Usually we don't notice that, thank goodness.
Yes.
But it affects us.
Yes.
The speed of a car going down the road.
Yes.
The fact that the average TV program doesn't go on for something more than, like, say, 8 minutes before there's a commercial.
Right.
So there's a certain pace
Yes.
that we have in our life that we wind up getting somehow stressed or worn out at that pace. So again, going along, so for instance, this doesn't feel like a sleep pace to me.
Okay.
Is maybe a pace for sleeping.
Okay.
So for the average person, and of course there'll be people that will need just the opposite, sometimes depressed people will need the opposite. For the average person, we want to get them to slow down.
Yes.
Take in their surroundings. Notice the sounds. You can hear now, I don't know if they'll be able to hear on the tape, there's a little bit of street sounds.
Yes.
A Japanese merchant selling something.
Yes.
The quality of the lighting in the room, sound of my voice, and how you're feeling in your body.
Yes.
And then we ask people to take a deep breath. And why don't we do it now? And just to think about it a little bit like this, Tony, if I kind of become the interviewer now,
Yes.
and your role becomes a bit more passive for a couple of minutes,
Yes.
just for a few minutes, and again, listening to the sounds and some deep breathing. Do you feel any different than you felt, say, 10 minutes ago?
Yes, I actually can feel my body more.
And what happens when you feel your body more?
I feel more aware and, in a way, more relaxed.
Right. So more aware, more relaxed. And one of the words that we use usually in conjunction with awareness is mindfulness.
And
mindfulness.
Mindfulness, yes.
So through the more somatic experience of Seitai, Aikido, slowing down,
Yes.
you start to notice parts of your experience that you hadn't been noticing.
Right.
And there's a great wealth of information in that material, in that information that you haven't been noticing previously.
And I haven't been noticing previously because the pace was too fast.
Preoccupied, worried, maybe getting nervous.
The cognitive mind
chattering about the fact that the last interview you didn't work as well, or this or that, or
Right.
all of a sudden you remember something your high school teacher said about, oh, you'll never be a good this or that, or
Right.
so conversation that takes us away from being in the moment.
Okay. So you when you get with a person, you try to get them in the moment,
Exactly.
as you're saying, mindfulness.
To become mindful, to become more aware of what's going on.
Understood.
And from there,
Yes.
that's when we'll tend to enter into a bit of an NLP conversation to begin to, not that NLP by any means is fully only a cognitive art, but to say, okay, here we are. We're in your corporation, or we're talking about your relationship with your child or your wife or whatever. In this pace, which gives your somatic intelligence a greater chance to be realized, join the cognitive, the verbal conversation to your somatic intelligence. And usually, when we do that, we find that solutions somehow start to arise or become evident that weren't evident before.
So a balance between the cognitive mind and the somatic mind.
Right.
First, so if we broke this down to steps, more of being in the moment, aware, being more mindful,
Mm-hmm.
that leads to hopefully to some sort of balance between the cognitive mind and somatic mind. It's being very simplistic here.
Mm-hmm. And we start noticing things that we weren't noticing before.
Right.
Could just be, oh my goodness, my child has such fast breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why they could be getting asthma or something.
Right.
Or, oh my goodness, I never noticed. This room is so dark.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder why my eyes have been bothering me.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just looking for information and not understanding what that information is going to give us, but just becoming more aware, and all of a sudden something seems to gel, and we get inspiration, we get an idea.
In a lot of the workshops that I've been to, that you do, and some of the discussions that you've done for the NLP study group, you use these big balls and adjust
Physical
posture.
therapy balls, yeah.
Yes. How does that tie into this whole process that we're doing, that we're kind of experiencing now?
Mm-hmm. There's a couple of important ideas in using the physiotherapy balls. One is that it puts you in a very, it puts the average person in a very new kind of setting, particularly when I use them in corporate work, which I do quite a lot.
Yeah.
It's really fantastic to see 20 or 30 corporate people sitting on these large rubber physiotherapy balls, everybody afraid of looking foolish.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you know what? That's what happens a lot within the corporation. Everyone's so afraid of looking foolish that, in certain corporations, that they don't really put out their creative ideas because they're afraid of looking foolish. So it's a kind of new setting, but it brings up old patterns, old insecurities, old feelings, and makes them a bit more evident.
Right.
And then, because when you sit on the ball, you're always kind of have no choice but a little bit to be moving the whole time.
Yes.
It helps you to be a little bit more fluid in your body, which will, over a period of time, translate into your thinking being more fluid, with less boundaries, with less rigidity.
Then I see you change people's postures. Now, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. very simply that I ask you now, if you don't mind, to go ahead and kind of slump over, and you notice pretty soon your head's down and sticking out from your trunk, and you look down at, on the floor, and go ahead and restrict your breathing a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And now tell me about something that really excites you in life.
Well, it gets
Right.
a little difficult. It kind of throws me into a kind of confusion.
Right. Good, exactly. It's kind of like, Tony, I'd like you to be happy and sad at the same time.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So that posture, you've never experienced joy or enthusiasm from that posture, slumped over, head down,
Yes.
restricted breathing.
No, I don't think so, no.
Right.
Yeah.
So since it's difficult to physically experience joy or excitement in that posture,
Mm-hmm.
you'll have difficulty thinking about times in your life when you have been excited.
Mm.
You'll be able to do it if you work at it, but it's kind of, again, it's like kind of being happy and sad at the same time. So what I help people to do, and of course it's the quality of the changes that are made, not just, okay, walk around with a book on your head and your life will work better, but we get people to change their posture and breathe more fully, and immediately they feel a bit healthier, a bit more available to take in new ideas and new information. So change the body first, and then the somatic self. Change the somatic self first, and then see what cognitive information you can marry to that new somatic shape.
Now, of course, you can't be following people around with these physiotherapy balls and stuff, and it can't be just as simple as the person sits up straight with
Mm-hmm.
in their home and feel good all the time. What do you do with the person or the corporation after they leave the workshop or the setting?
Okay, good. What we do, and very important, is that, and you'll see this, I believe, in most everyone's work, particularly in seminars, but also like in coaching and counseling, I think it happens quite often, is people will come and have a big experience, an important, meaningful experience, oh, wow, thank you kind of experience, and then they go outside, get in their car, or go to work, however it happens, and they can't quite remember or pull together or recreate how it happened. And that's very common because it's a new experience and they don't have the habits to support that new way of thinking and that new way of feeling.
Right.
So what we do is we design special mindfulness exercises for people to practice during the course of their day.
Could you give me an example?
Okay. I have an example where a salesperson comes to me and he's a pretty good salesman, but so often he gets so nervous in the opening moments of the sale that he just blows the entire thing.
Right.
Okay. So he comes because he wants to be a better salesperson, be more successful as a salesperson. We don't give him strategies as such as to how to understand people's thinking better. Often what we do is we give him a simple little kind of chart to fill out of noticing what kind of clothing the person's wearing, what color are their eyes, does the client seem relaxed, so forth and so on. And we just have him make these little tick marks as he goes along. And in the process of paying attention to all these little things, he discovers that he's a lot less nervous. In fact, he actually feels fairly relaxed and reasonably confident, and the sales process goes better.
Right.
So before, when we started out asking him, okay, so tell us about a certain client, he says, okay, there was client X the other day, and I say, let me ask you a question. What color clothing was the client wearing? And he didn't remember. What was the color eyes of the client? Didn't remember. What were their facial expressions like? What were their hand movements? Didn't remember.
Right.
So he got into such a state of internal dialogue that he was no longer really noticing what was happening. So the mindfulness exercise, it's not an exercise about how to be a better salesperson. It's if you can become more aware or mindful in the moment, you'll find that you release the excess energy that's been blocking you.
And that goes all the way back to the concept of Aikido.
Right.
Of being mindful and being aware and being there in the moment instead of off of, what I got to do tomorrow or what I said yesterday to my boss or something
Exactly.
like
So maybe in designing these interviews, Tony, I think maybe what we'll do is, I'm not sure exactly how long we've been going at the moment, but why don't we bring this interview to a close for today?
Sure.
And hopefully when people go back and listen to it, they'll have a better idea of my work. And then the next time I do come to your study group, I think things will work that much better.
Sure. Well, and thank you very much for doing this for us, Charlie. And maybe we'll be able to have some more interviews in the future.
Okay, great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.